Welcome, everyone, to this season of Technology Adoption Unleashed. My name is Sherry Kappel, and I am an evangelist here at Litera, and I am so excited about our continued episode this week. First of all, it is our season opener, and it carries forward a conversation that we began last season with Alma and Haley, all about their legal tech news, technology, tech adoption Jenga series that they've done with that publication. And they've brought to us kind of a new spin on this. You know, last season, they were sharing their own experiences about facilitating legal technology adoption. But this time they've brought along another company and another user of a different technology altogether to kind of share their experiences and how they do it. So what we're going to get started with are just some brief introductions of everyone. So Mitesh, why don't we start with you? Tell us who you are and your role, where you work.
Absolutely. I'm Mitesh Patel. I work at Hopkins Carley. I'm a trademark attorney, and we had the benefit of onboarding some new trademark docketing software with AltLegal, and it was a great experience that we had.
So fantastic. And how about you, Nehal? Tell us about you. Where are you at?
Sure. I'm Nehal Madhani. I'm a lawyer and CEO of a company called AltLegal. We make IP docketing software with a specific focus for trademark attorneys, and currently with pandemic, still based in New York City.
All right. Haley, how about you?
I'm Haley Altman. I am now the global head of corporate development at Litera. So I focus on our M&A strategy for the company as a whole, but former practicing attorney and was the CEO of Doxley, a legal tech company that I sold to Litera in 2019.
Fantastic. And Alma, you?
I'm Alma Asay, and I was a litigator at Gibson Dunn before leaving in 2012 to start Allegory, which is a litigation management platform. I sold that to Integrion in 2017, and last year, right as the pandemic was hitting, almost at my one-year anniversary here, I joined Litera as an evangelist, where I do a variety of things, including looking at how we can help clients increase adoption of our products. But for both Haley and I, based on our experiences, we really enjoy looking at how other companies work with their end users to enhance adoption as well. And I am currently in Los Angeles, enjoying a nice sunny winter.
Yes, Haley and I, we can talk about all that later. From Chicago, yes, it's been Alma, it occurs to me, I would love to hear from you just some sort of a flashback of you as a litigator at Gibson Dunn taking on a new piece of technology. Were you happy about that? Was it an easy process?
I would say, first of all, legal innovation back then was not what it is now. So we weren't often asked to take on new technology. The thing that's coming to mind most of all is the timekeeping system, because that's the one thing that we actually were forced to use, and that drove me crazy. I think that and the expense system were really the only, outside of Microsoft Office products, those were the only real technologies that we had to use. Of course, over time, we started using more e-discovery tools, but, we had a lot of help with those. But for everyday life, it was really just those two. But I can tell you that even if legal technology had been a bigger thing, I would have been guilty, as guilty as the worst user now in saying, yeah, I'll try it, and never getting to it. But I think it helps being able to empathize with our users in that way.
Yeah, I completely agree. And Haley, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you and Alma came together to put together this series? First of all, the vision of tech adoption Jenga. It is really, really sort of a wobbly structure, isn't it?
Yeah.
Came together to do that article series.
Yeah, well, Alma and I have always had throughout the years when we were both running tech companies, these conversations that have included Hall and other CEOs and around here, like how do you help attorneys, exceed that adoption hurdle, start to get them to use technology? So we've always had those discussions. And then when we were kind of thinking about like what are the things that we can do to advance like legal tech in the industry, we really kind of thought about like what is it that comes together, and kept coming back to like this foundation. And when you think about it, a lot of times people buy tech and they think that they have built the foundation by purchasing it. They've gone through maybe they've looked at a couple techs and they're like, okay, we purchased it, and they're just surprised that it all falls apart and there's no adoption after they buy it because they bought it, so now it's there and everyone should use it. And so we really took a step back and said, how do you deconstruct that and say, okay, what is that proper foundation? So we looked at it from our perspective and our experiences, but we're, fortunate to know that there are a lot of companies solving different problems that require even different adoption steps. And so we came together to want to do this article to really take looks at, how different technology can solve the adoption journey, through their products.
It's fascinating, Mitesh and Nehal, when the very first article was really from the negative. What are all the things not to do that are not successful about tech adoption? So Mitesh, you are an adopter of a new technology, and I'd really like to hear your story about how you became familiar with AltLegal and really what your experiences with your previous system were. So if you could share that with us, it'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Sherry. The previous system that shall not be named. And I've gone through and migrated, from different firms, a lot of different systems, not just trademark stuff, but all firm management stuff. And, when AltLegal, a lot of trademark practitioners have been using it, and so when we started thinking about it, Nehal jumped in, said, hey, yeah, we'll get you guys up and running, and gave us basically, and when we did this, a lot of times the companies would give us demo pages, it'd be filled with dummy data, and it gives you some kind of idea, I suppose, of how it works. But Nehal gave us our actual data to play with, which is, just something hands and it's just easier to manipulate. You understand where it's coming from. You can compare it to your own data and then kind of run some kind of, okay, well, is this getting the same thing that I want or need, that my clients need? We didn't get that anywhere else, much less have a working system before we even, were in a purchase, position. So it was a great concept to have. And throughout the way, they were in constant contact with us, and like I said last day, it was more of a hassle trying to get our data out of our provider than getting it in to AltLegal.
And so, Mitesh, in terms of a docketing system, is this something you would use, say, once a day, 100 times a day? How critical is a docketing system to what you do?
I mean, for a trademark attorney, anybody a trademark attorney knows that is the backbone of your practice. And AltLegal sends you a morning kind of, you can set when you're getting it and what appears on it, a docket kind of thing. So before we'd have my clerk run that every time we'd have a meeting or every, 2 days or 3 days, and then we'd have to distribute it. Well, not everybody gets that, automatically. It's set. We can click from there into the docket. You can send links that are active. It just changed the way that we're working because it's no longer a place that you go in information and it's kind of a siloed out. You can access it via email and chat and Teams, and all the links are accessible and you can change it. And, it just, you're in and out of it so much that you want to just be there all the time. And that's what it should be. You want that to integrate in the rest of your systems, which is fantastic.
So it's a technology that makes you and your colleagues happy.
Absolutely.
And it's designed to make you happy, right?
I mean, it's designed to make us work less. It's designed to do some of the efficiencies for us. Because I mean, like I told you yesterday, it's, in the decade that I've been practicing, project costs haven't gone down. I've just had to do more work in less amount of time. My rates keep going up. That's not changing, And so I need to utilize technology like AltLegal to make my practice more efficient in order to stay up with just the industry demands.
So one of the things that we'd also like to hear about is what exactly was the deployment process for you there? So how did you, take it on? Was it in one big kind of big bang switch, or was it little bits and pieces?
So the beauty was, and Nehal can speak more to this, was they take data that's publicly available, and up to that time we had to manually input all this information everywhere. And so the USPTO, they would take that, they would overnight any updates would come on our docketing system, and that really saves a lot of manual entry that goes on all the time. And so and that's key to an email address that's sent to the USPTO, and so all of our stuff just was there for USPTO matters, and just seeing it there, back to, well, it was already populated. I mean, if that can be done, I don't know why other people were doing it already. It's an amazing tool. And the fact that, AltLegal was willing to just show us this, and they weren't trying to hide, well, hey, we can, give this to you, it's available now, was amazing. It was a breath of fresh air, and one of the reasons that we love using it. It's, and it's not just, I'm not in it maybe all the time like I used to be, because I have a docketing clerk, I have but they love it because it lets them, they can understand it, they can get in there easy. AltLegal has tutorials, real support's always available. If they have a question, hey, ask them. They'll probably be able to answer that for you, and they will. Within a few hours, they can give a response, and it's responsive, right? It's responsive to not just the way we practice, but anything that we need. We can ask, and they know, hey, that's not possible at this time. Well, we understand now. We can figure something out, but it's the communication that's really key.
So I'm beginning to believe you're perhaps less a trademark attorney and more a technology evangelist, don't you think?
I think we all have to be, don't we?
Yeah, for sure.
We all do, because it makes all of our lives so much easier. So Nehal, you have to share with us how, what was your journey into legal technology? Was this something you said as a young boy that you wanted to grow up and
the world of trademark docketing, every young kid dreams of, right? No, so for me, I was a lawyer, and I went to law school, but I started my first business when I was in college. It was an online classified service for college students. I ran that into law school, failed miserably because I had like $20,000. I spent $15,000 on software development and had $5,000 left to run the business. And obviously that's enough to market and build a business, especially like an online classified service. But that was the second year of law school. And at that point, I realized just how much I enjoyed building businesses, and not as much a practice of law, but I was already in law school, couldn't get a full refund at that point. And I had this great offer in the midst of a recession to join Kirkland Ellis's Chapter 11 group. So I did that and learned what I wanted to, and learned a lot, quite honestly. But after a few years, my heart was still in building businesses. And at that point, I had paid back what I needed to, saved enough. And so I left to start a different legal technology business, which at the time was a marketplace connecting lawyers and businesses. So that something like Priority Legal today, and Up Counsel to the extent it's still around, things like that. Turns out that wasn't a great business for us. There's a lot of problems with fee sharing, and once I connected a lawyer and the business, there wasn't a lot of need for us. So we were this awkward middleman that was persisting. And so along the way, what happened is I actually had filed my own trademarks, my own patents, and firsthand just discovered what a painful process it was. I had never done IP law before, but I was like, I'm a lawyer, I'm gonna save on legal fees. Let me just do this myself. And I started speaking with a lot of other trademark lawyers. I'm like, hey, I must be doing something wrong. This feels really painful. And like, what happens when I get an update on my trademark? Can I track these deadlines? And they're all like, no, this is just the way it was done. So it was so inspiring, those conversations. I shut down whatever I was doing and started building trademark document assembly software. And then, trademark lawyers like Mitesh and others told me, like, that's great. You can help me file a trademark faster, but I have these hundreds and thousands of trademarks I've filed in the past. How do I track them? Well, it turns out that the USPTO had gone electronic, and they had created an API where we could draw down this data. And if we created the right algorithms, we could not only draw down on this data like others were doing, we could actually then take a step further and calculate their deadlines for them. And then we could take a step further and update those deadlines. So if Mitesh filed a response to an office action, there's no reason him or his paralegal have to go into the software and clear the deadline. We know that they've taken that action. And so that was really the magic sauce, right? This automation that was in front of everyone. I mean, it seems, as Mitesh said, this is kind of obvious, right? It was there, the data was there. I think we were just the first ones to kind of take that on and then, bring that modern ethos to IP docketing software, right? So we had a modern interface. We had live chat support. We didn't charge for data migration like everyone else does. It seems silly to charge someone to become a customer. So we just took this modern approach, and I think that's just really what's resonated with Mitesh and all of our other customers.
I think it's interesting because it is truly an example of, the name of our series here, Technology Adoption Unleashed. You really did unleash, the data that can drive that particular practice and put it into a context that makes it usable. In fact, Mitesh, you called it simple elegance in the article. And I'm really just, wanting you to kind of talk a little bit more about that in response to Nehal's comments.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that's very intuitive. We've had, our new employees or docketing clerks actually get on, and with very little introduction, they can kind of cheat their way around it. It's very simple to the point where, if you kind of have an understanding of trademark law, you know what the categories look like. And even if you don't, it looks like a tool you're accustomed to. It's most of these older docketing, I mean, most of the newer docketing, the current docketing programs look like they're made in Windows XP. It's a very different system. They're not web-based. And even if they are, it doesn't look like it is. It's just not easy to use. Putting all that aside, forget the tool for a second. Even if it wasn't as fantastic as it is, the responsiveness, the ability to just talk to us and explain how this works, even if it's on a how-to, or it's spelled, that is so easy for us to say, well, this is a great reason to stick with them. And the tool is great. Putting that aside, it's the responsiveness that we get, even if it's something that we know is out there. Someone can reach out and say, hey, can we do this bulk change real quick? Absolutely, and they can do it, so then I can save time too. It's just fantastic. We've had a great experience.
Truly a partnership. It seems. Nehal, this is fascinating. When you shared with me that you're not, an IP attorney and you're not a trademark and patent lawyer, like, how did you get all the messaging right? Because clearly you have.
It took a lot of listening, and I say it was just listening to customers like Mitesh and just prospects. I would attend trade shows and I would eagerly take on every conversation, anyone that was willing to talk to me, and just listen.
I've talked to Nehal more than he cares to listen. Trust me, I have a lot to say. I will not stop talking, as you can so.
and that's been so helpful, right? It's just listening to what the market needs, right? And listening to these users and their pain points more than anything, right? They're struggling, and not struggling because of life or anything else, right? Like, they're just struggling to find the solutions that they need, right? They're struggling with clients pushing back on their billable rates. And, we had one customer that was a corporate customer who signed up with our software after their law firm charged them $800 to generate a spreadsheet listing all their trademarks, because it went through a paralegal, associate, and a partner for review. And then the aggregate was $800 for a simple spreadsheet. And so they get that downward pressure. And, our job was to just simplify it. So just listening to what their needs were. And, over time, we've just tried to communicate trust, right? And that trust kind of comes through that expertise in trademark law. So we put on webinars, at this point, bi-weekly. We put together a conference. We created a trademark paralegal course because we're asking them for a big switch. We want them to switch their entire system of record and trust us kind of almost immediately.
That's fantastic. You also shared about how hard it is to, get, shall we say, work out the incumbent, right? And the seemingly, the mastery all the users have in that legacy system. The disruption of that mastery, it creates a fear, it creates a difficulty. So how did you all overcome that?
The magic was in part, we had this data from the government database, so we could create a parallel system that lets them compare what they're already using to what our system could be. So for us to spin up a trial, pick any organization, pick any law firm, I could create a trial for them with their actual data in probably 5 minutes or less. And we're talking thousands of trademarks that they can see And then now it's just putting it in front of every user and saying, okay, well, tell me which one you like better, which one's easier to use, which one's giving you the right deadlines. And in fact, when we run these trials in parallel, there's some instances where these firms, because it's reliant on manual data, have the wrong deadlines. And so that's an easy sale when we can show them that we actually have the right deadlines.
So it's instant trust, an illustration of trust. My goodness, that's awesome. And then how did you actually, what was the secret sauce in the migration of the data? Because that's a big job from the old system into the new.
Yeah, no, and we knew that early on in sort of our company's history that, there's a lot of incumbents. We're the newest kid on the block, so to speak, and we're going to have to switch everyone, right? We're switching everyone from some sort of system, whether it was a spreadsheet, whether it was a calendar or incumbent. So early on, we invested in technology tools that would allow us to do a data migration incredibly easily. So, we quote a week, but if we had to do a portfolio of even let's say 1,000 or 10,000 matters, we could do it in a day or two. And just to kind of show you the sort of leverage we've built, we have one customer support person that's able to support 900 organizations and does all of our data migrations because of the technology infrastructure that we've taken on.
Wow, that's incredible.
Haley,
so worth the investment.
I keep looking at Haley's face as Nehal is saying these things because I know Haley and I both are like, oh, if only.
Well, you just think about it. And this is what's so exciting when you think about it. When the system is core, like you have to be in it every day, and your practice relies on it. Like the adoption journey is just different. It just starts so much earlier, and like the things you have to. It's eye opening to think about. But it also kind of shows, even when you're not like the core system, like you can make yourself more core if you probably start to think the way that they've thought about how they built it, how you onboard, how you get the data in. It's all like, these are all things where like different companies and perspectives, because they're an initial challenge that your biggest, like migrating from an existing system, that is a massive challenge. But that idea is such an interesting one for, people to think about as you launch someone, like how that data gets generated the first time. It's really interesting.
Do you have a Mitesh at every one of those 900 clients? I'm just curious.
Same with that.
Do you have an evangelist like him at every one of your clients?
We often, it's the docketing folks that sometimes, push back on us the hardest, because they're the ones that, it's like no one ever got fired for, hiring IBM or McKinsey. They're the ones that push back on us the hardest because, it's their livelihood. But the fact that they can run in parallel gives them all the trust that they need. That
is right. It's not that light switch or that sort of rip and replace, which is a very scary sort of, scenario to unseat.
Well, I've seen like homebrewed. I came from a trademark mill that had its own system to file 8,000 to 12,000 trademarks a year, manage, communicate, all of that stuff. And so I've seen that. I've seen spreadsheets. I've seen, I had my own firm for a few years, and then, I've been at Hopkins and Carley for a few years. So we've switched. And so it's not just seeing what else is out there. It's the way that you can use it in a daily basis and really help see what you're seeing. And that's why I wasn't just in it. It wasn't just my docketing clerk or my paralegal was in it. We were all in it, and we had to be in it from the ground. And to understand that, I think, to be a stakeholder in it, you really have to understand how these systems work so you can offer really collective feedback that's useful. 'Cause if you don't know what you want, you're not going to get it.
Yeah. And I told you, Mitesh, that I am a document geek, kind of certifiable document geek. And my favorite documents of any practice group, of any law firm, is intellectual property documents. They are fascinating for all of the elements that are in it. And so I think about some of our products that go into the document and work on them. And I think, wow, this is an awesome, being able to manage all this data is incredible. So what are the benefits that your organization has seen since you deployed AltLegal? Are things faster? Can you take on more work? Is it just that everybody gets to go home earlier?
I think we get a more holistic view of what we can see and do. We have the flexibility to kind of give clients more of what they want to see versus what we can give them. Ideally, with the access that AltLegal can provide, we're doing a lot less of the reporting, and clients are likewise paying for a lot less of our time to do this reporting, which then they can access themselves, which then enables not just us, but the clients to really, like Nehal said, I want to pay $800 for a spreadsheet. Well, let me pull it up myself. And if I don't understand something, I can reach out to the lawyer and ask him to talk to the paralegal, but I don't have to ask them and then pay for just the documents. And that access tool, once implemented, can be really neat. And so it's just adopting all of this, and we're at the early stages of we're changing a lot of things, from our platform, and with Rob O'Reilly, who's great, and I know you know Rob. And so we're hoping that for the new generation of lawyer, we really need to use technology. We grew up with technology. It's something we've had, computers and mobile, and younger lawyers even more so. They grew up with tablets and phone. And so the way this integrates into not just our lives, but into our careers and what we do every day is going to be more and more crucial, right? And so it's a matter of not just using it because we have to, it's because we need to.
Well, it feels to me as if it's going to give you insights to build the business, to strengthen the client relationship in ways. Documents become such a jail cell for information, and this is a system that really is unleashing a lot of that. So I think it's just a wonderful implementation. I guess we only have a couple of minutes left, actually. So how about we wrap up by perhaps Alma, you starting and just giving us a couple of thoughts about your interview with them and takeaways, and then we'll do Haley, and then Nehal, you can wrap us up.
Well, the interaction that struck me most just now and came through during our interview in preparation for writing the Legal Tech News article as well is the concept of listening. And I think, for Nehal, not having the background, of course he had to start asking questions. But it's obvious that even as he has mastered this area, he's continued to listen. It sounds like, Mitesh is thankfully willing to talk and share thoughts for him to gather this information. But I think that's just so critical. And I think, sometimes people have a background, and, I had a background in litigation, and I was guilty of it in the beginning. You think, well, I have a good idea of what people need. But with all of this legal technology, we really need to listen so much. And the other side of that is we need to find attorneys who are willing to take the time to share their feedback. And we need attorneys to tell us what they want, tell us what they need, tell us their challenges. It really is a two-way street to get that communication in order to build better legal tech.
And Haley, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the idea that understanding the biggest pain points that are going to prevent someone from adopting your technology here, like data migration, ease of use, since it's a daily tool. So understand what those major hurdles are going to be, and then think about how you, through adoption, whether it's adding additional technology or additional kind of support resources, can help them through that. So I think that's a really good point that I've kind of taken away.
And Nehal, you want to go ahead and kind of wrap us up?
Yeah, no, we're grateful for, folks like Mitesh and, the rest of the trademark community, and just telling us what they want, telling us what their problems are, telling us how we can keep improving, right? I think we just briefly touched on this at the end, right? But it's now unlocking the value of their data and their documents. And so that's really where we're headed next. I was just emailing with Mitesh about this new product that we're now offering, right? Where we'll go into your entire trademark portfolio, let you know when any of those trademarks are mentioned in a likelihood of confusion refusal by someone else. And you can just have that as a blanket watch service and then go out and tell your clients, right? So we want to empower lawyers like Mitesh to look their best, right, in front of their clients and keep delivering them more value.
Okay, so in this episode, I have migrated, Nehal, from being a document geek to now being a data geek. So I want to thank you all for joining us today to share your story about technology adoption. And I look forward to running into you all, in physical space somewhere in the future. But thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.